The boot came down hard. Leather, Italian, $1,500. It connected with ribs that had survived firefights in Kandahar, shrapnel in Helmand, and a grenade blast that should have killed him. The Belgian Malinois hit the asphalt with a sound that cut through the autumn afternoon like a knife. A yelp. Sharp. Involuntary. Pain. The kind of sound that makes mothers grab their children's hands without knowing why. Vaughn Brennan laughed. 28 years old, Yale dropout, $300 haircut, and the kind of smile that came from never being told no. His two friends laughed with him. Designer jackets, phones out, recording everything. They didn't know. They couldn't know. That dog lying on the pavement, gray muzzle pressed against cold concrete tactical vest, marked in faded letters, "Do not pet," wasn't just a dog. That was Atlas. Belgian Malinois, 8 years old, 43 combat missions. 4 Navy personnel pulled from burning wreckage. 2 insurgent compounds cleared. 1 Medal of Commendation for Valor that sat in a box somewhere in a Pentagon office because dogs don't get to wear their medals. And they sure as hell didn't know that his handler was 30 feet behind them, walking out of Riverton Market with 2 bags of groceries and a cup of coffee that was already going cold. Harper's slate stopped. The bags hit the sidewalk. Apples rolled, bread crushed. Coffee lid popped, dark liquid spreading across pavement like spilled oil. She didn't notice. She was already moving. Subscribe right now. What happens in the next 60 minutes will restore your faith in justice. But you need to see it all, every second. Comment your city below. Let us know you're here, because this story needs witnesses. 42 years old, 5'7", 135 pounds soaking wet, blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail that had seen better days, jeans with a hole in the left knee, flannel shirt sleeves rolled to the elbows, tattoo on her right forearm, an eagle, a trident, an anchor. Small, faded. The kind you only see if you're looking. Navy SEAL, Joint Special Operations Command. Retired 2 years ago with a medical discharge, a disability check for $1,847 a month, and hearing aids she couldn't afford to replace. She crossed those 30 feet in 4 seconds. Vaughn didn't see her coming. His boot was still raised, ready for another kick. His friends were laughing, phones angled for the best shot. One of them was saying something about posting it, about going viral, about how funny it was that the stupid dog just laid there and took it. Harper's hand caught Vaughn's ankle mid-swing. The movement was surgical, precise, no wasted motion. She twisted. Not hard, just enough. Vaughn's knee buckled. His balance shifted. His arms windmilled, once expensive watch catching sunlight, and then he was falling. He hit the pavement face first. His nose made a sound like a branch snapping. Blood immediate and bright spread across his upper lip. The two friends stopped laughing. One of them dropped his phone. The crowd that had been browsing the farmers' market booths, the families with strollers, the teenagers texting on benches, the old men feeding pigeons, they all stopped. Everything stopped, except Harper. She knelt beside Vaughn, one knee pressing between his shoulder blades, her hands still controlling his ankle, bending it at an angle that made him scream. Not a shout, a scream. High-pitched, panicked, the sound of someone who'd never felt real pain before and didn't know what to do with it. Federal asset, Harper said. Her voice was quiet, calm. The kind of calm that comes from saying the same thing 100 times in 100 different hellholes where calm was the only thing keeping you alive. You just assaulted a federal asset. Vaughn tried to twist away. Harper applied pressure. Not much, just enough to make his shoulder joint protest. Stay still, she said. He stayed still. Atlas lifted his head, slowly, shakily. His eyes found Harper. Dark eyes, intelligent, focused. He didn't stand, not yet. The kick had done damage. Ribs probably, maybe worse. But he watched. Always watching, always assessing. That's what they trained into you at the kennels, at the obstacle courses, in the kill houses where they taught you the difference between enemy and civilian, between threat and bystander, between attack and restrain. Atlas knew threats, and Vaughn Brennan, face down on pavement, with blood pooling under his designer stubble, was no longer a threat. Sirens distant, but getting closer. Someone had called 911. Of course they had. This was Riverton, Montana, population 47,000. The kind of place where everyone knew everyone, where a fight in broad daylight at the community market was enough to get 3 patrol cars dispatched. Harper didn't move. She kept her knee planted, her hand controlling Vaughn's ankle, her eyes scanning the crowd, looking for accomplices, looking for weapons, looking for threats, old habits. The kind that saved your life in Kandahar and made you look paranoid in Montana. One of Vaughn's friends, early 20s, expensive sneakers, the kind of confidence that came from daddy's money stepped forward. Hey, he said. Hey, you can't. Harper's eyes cut to him. He stopped mid-sentence. Something in her gaze. Something cold. Something that said, I have done things you cannot imagine in places you cannot pronounce. And if you take one more step, you will learn exactly how far training goes when adrenaline kicks in. He stepped back. The patrol cars arrived. 2 of them. Light bars flashing red and blue across storefronts and faces, and the scattered groceries still littering the sidewalk. 4 officers emerged, 2 male, 2 female. All with hands near their belts, not on weapons but close, ready. The senior officer, mid-40s, graying temples nameplate reading. Mitchell approached slowly. Ma'am, he said, I need you to step back. Harper looked up at him, then at Vaughn, then at Atlas, still lying on the pavement, still watching. She released Vaughn's ankle, stood, stepped back. Vaughn scrambled to his feet, hand clutching his nose, blood running between his fingers. His face was already swelling. His left eye would be purple by nightfall. She attacked me, he shouted, voice nasal, thick. Crazy bitch just attacked me. Officer Mitchell held up a hand. Everyone calm down, he said. But his eyes were on Atlas, on the vest, on the words do not pet, on the scars visible through short fur, the way the dog's left hind leg trembled, slightly taking weight off an old injury. That's a working dog, Mitchell said. Not a question, a statement. Harper nodded. K9 Navy, Harper said. Retired. Mitchell's expression changed. Subtle, but there. Respect maybe, or recognition, or just the understanding that this wasn't a simple assault case. What happened, he asked. Harper pointed at Vaughn. He kicked my dog, she said. Deliberately. 3 witnesses at minimum. Probably more. That's bullshit, Vaughn yelled. I have video, a voice said. Everyone turned. A man in his 60s gray beard, VFW ball cap, flannel jacket. He held up his phone. Got the whole thing, he said. Kid kicked the dog twice. She only moved when he went for a 3rd kick. Officer Mitchell looked at Vaughn, looked at the man with the phone, looked at Harper. We're going to need statements from everyone, he said. 40 minutes later, Harper sat in the back of a patrol car. Not arrested, not handcuffed, just separated. That's what they did. Split everyone up, get individual stories, compare them later. Through the window, she could see Vaughn talking to another officer. Animated, angry, pointing at his face. His father had arrived, silver Lincoln Navigator, expensive suit, the kind of man who walked into a police scene like he owned it. Because in Riverton, Montana, Thurston Brennan basically did. Former state senator, 12 years in office. Now CEO of Brennan Capital and Development, real estate, construction. The kind of money that bought buildings and politicians in equal measure. Harper watched him talk to the officers. Watch them nod. Watch their body language shift from professional to deferential. She'd seen it before. Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. The way officers treated contractors differently than enlisted. The way orders changed when someone with stars on their collar showed up. The way rules bent when money or rank entered the room. Same game, different uniform. A tap on the window, the man with the VFW cap. He gestured. Harper rolled down the window. Name's Briggs Keller, he said. Sergeant, Marines, 71 to 73. Harper nodded. Harper Slate, she said. Navy, 08 to 24. Keller's eyes dropped to her forearm, the tattoo, the trident. SEAL, he asked. She didn't answer, didn't need to. That dog, Keller said. I've worked with K9s, Marine units. That's not police training. That's not even standard military. Special operations, Harper said quietly. Keller whistled low. And that piece of shit kicked him, he said. Twice, Harper said. Would have been 3 if I hadn't stopped him. Keller looked over at Thurston Brennan, at the officers still talking to him, at the way Vaughn was already being led to the Navigator instead of a patrol car. You know who that is, Keller asked. Rich asshole, Harper said. Rich asshole who owns this town, Keller corrected. Thurston Brennan owns half the buildings on Main Street. Donated $200,000 to the new sheriff's office. Golf buddies with the DA. Judge Hendricks presided over his daughter's wedding. Harper said nothing. I'm saying, Keller continued, you just made an enemy with a long memory and deep pockets. He kicked my dog, Harper said. Simple, final. Keller smiled, sad smile, tired smile. The smile of someone who'd seen this story before and knew how it ended. Yeah, he said, I figured you'd say that. He handed her a business card through the window. Worn, bent at one corner. Valor K9 Sanctuary Briggs Keller Director, a phone number, an address outside town. You need anything, Keller said, you call me. I know what it's like to fight the Brennans. He walked away before Harper could ask what he meant. Officer Mitchell returned 20 minutes later, opened the patrol car door. You're free to go, he said. Harper climbed out. Charges, she asked. Mr. Brennan has decided not to press charges, Mitchell said. His tone said everything his words didn't. Mr. Brennan had decided. Not the law, not the evidence. Mr. Brennan. What about him kicking my dog? Harper asked. Mitchell's jaw tightened. Without additional witnesses willing to make official statements, he said. It's difficult to... The man with the video, Harper interrupted. Declined to provide it officially, Mitchell said. Said he'd rather not get involved. Harper looked across the parking lot. Keller was gone. The crowd had dispersed. The market had resumed. People buying vegetables, kids eating ice cream, life moving on like nothing had happened. So he just walks, Harper said. Ma'am, Mitchell said, and there was genuine apology in his voice. I saw the video, off the record. I know what happened. But this town, it's complicated. It's corrupt, Harper said. Mitchell didn't argue. He just handed her a copy of the incident report and walked back to his patrol car. Harper stood in the parking lot, alone. Atlas limped over, slowly, each step careful, measured, his left hind leg barely touching pavement. He sat beside her, pressed his shoulder against her leg. 85 pounds of muscle and scars and loyalty. Harper's hand found his head, scratched behind his ears the way he liked. Come on, boy, she said. Let's get you checked out. Riverton Emergency Animal Hospital sat on the edge of town. Small building, peeling paint, parking lot with more cracks than asphalt. Harper pushed through the door at 7:45 p.m. The waiting room was empty except for a woman behind the counter. 50s, graying hair pulled back, scrubs with cartoon dogs on them. Help you, she asked. My dog was kicked, Harper said. Need him examined. The woman's eyes dropped to Atlas, to the vest. To the way he was standing, weight shifted favoring his right side. Kicked, the woman repeated. Deliberately, Harper said. The woman's expression hardened. Bring him back, she said. She led them to an exam room, small, clean, stainless steel table, bright lights. Doctor will be right in, the woman said. She left. Harper lifted Atlas onto the table. All 85 pounds. He didn't resist, didn't whimper. Just let her position him, let her hands run over his ribs, checking for swelling, for heat, for the telltale signs of internal bleeding. The door opened. A woman in her early 50s entered. White coat, stethoscope, tired eyes that had seen too many late nights and not enough miracles. I'm Dr. Lillian Porter, she said. Let's see what we're working with. Her hands were gentle, professional, pressing along Atlas's ribcage, listening to his breathing, checking his pupils, his gums, his heart rate. Atlas tolerated it. That's what they taught you at the kennels. Tolerate the medical exams, the vaccinations, the hands of strangers poking and prodding, because sometimes those hands saved your life when an IED turned your world into fire and shrapnel. Dr. Porter stepped back. Cracked ribs, she said, possibly two, internal bleeding, not severe but present. He needs surgery, tonight. Harper's stomach dropped. How much, she asked. $8,400, doctor, Porter said. That includes overnight observation medication follow-up. Harper's bank account had $340 in it. Her credit cards were maxed. Her disability check wasn't due for another week. I can't, Harper said. The words felt like glass in her throat. Dr. Porter looked at her, really looked, at the tattoo on her forearm, at the way Harper's hand rested on Atlas's head, protective constant, at the way the dog's eyes tracked Harper's face, looking for reassurance, for guidance, for the handler who'd kept him alive through 43 missions in hell. Navy, Dr. Porter asked. Harper nodded. Your dog. He was my partner's, Harper said. Corporal Garrett Rivera, KIA Syria, February 2024. Something changed in Dr. Porter's face. My husband, she said quietly, was Corpsman Jeffrey Davis, Iraq, October 2007. Silence. The kind of silence that exists between people who've lost the same thing in different wars. I'll do the surgery now, Dr. Porter said. You pay when you can. I can't ask you to. You're not asking, Dr. Porter said. I'm telling. She lifted Atlas from the table, carried all 85 pounds like he weighed nothing. Wait in the lobby, she said. This'll take about 6 hours. The door closed behind her. Harper stood alone in the exam room, fluorescent lights humming overhead. The smell of disinfectant and fear. She pulled out her phone. $340 in checking. $52,340 in medical debt from her own PTSD treatment from hearing aids from the therapy she'd stopped going to because she couldn't afford it. She opened her browser, typed Thurston Brennan. The results loaded. Photos, articles, press releases. Philanthropist of the Year 2023, Heartland Heroes Fund, reaches $12 million. Goal Senator Brennan cuts ribbon on new veterans housing complex. Photo after photo. Thurston in expensive suits, shaking hands with veterans in wheelchairs, standing in front of construction sites, holding oversized checks. Harper clicked on the Heartland Heroes Fund website. Glossy, professional, photos of smiling veterans, of families, of new homes. She clicked on completed projects, 6 addresses. She copied the first one, pasted it into Google Maps. Street view loaded. Vacant lot, weeds, chain link fence. No building, no construction, nothing. She tried the second address. Vacant lot, the third, vacant lot, all 6 vacant lots, every single one. $12 million raised, 0 houses built. Harper's jaw clenched. She called the number listed on the website. 3 rings. Then the number you have reached is no longer in service. She lowered the phone, stared at the screen, at Thurston Brennan's face smiling back at her from a photo op with a veteran who'd probably never seen a dime of that $12 million. The waiting room door opened. Briggs Keller walked in, still wearing the VFW cap, still carrying that tired, knowing expression. "Figured I'd find you here," he said. Harper looked up. "How'd you know?" "Only emergency vet in town," Keller said. "And I know what it looks like when someone realizes they're in over their head." He sat down in the plastic chair beside her. "I need to tell you something," he said, "about Thurston Brennan." Harper waited. 2 years ago, Keller said, "I ran a small sanctuary, 12 acres outside town, took in retired military dogs, gave them a place to live out their years with dignity." He paused. "I made the mistake of asking questions about Brennan's veteran charity, publicly, at a town hall. Just questions. Where's the money going? Where are the houses?" "What happened?" Harper asked. "Within 3 weeks, Keller said Brennan Capital filed a lawsuit, zoning violations, noise complaints from neighbors who didn't exist, environmental impact studies. Tied me up in legal fees for 18 months, $85,000 I didn't have. And the sanctuary foreclosed," Keller said. "Bank repoed the land, sold it at auction. Brennan Capital bought it for $1. Built a storage facility." Harper said nothing. "I'm telling you this," Keller said, "because you need to understand what you're up against. Thurston Brennan doesn't just win, he destroys. Completely. He crushes anyone who threatens his reputation." "He kicked a war dog," Harper said. "His son kicked a war dog," Keller corrected. "And Daddy will make sure nothing comes of it." "We'll see," Harper said. Keller smiled, that same sad, tired smile. "Yeah," he said. "That's what I thought you'd say." He stood, dropped a card on the chair beside him. Different card this time, handwritten phone number. "That's my cell," he said. "Not the sanctuary number. That's dead. But me, I'm still around. And I know people, veterans, canine handlers, people who don't like seeing Brennan get away with shit." He walked to the door, paused. "Your dog gonna make it?" he asked. "Yeah," Harper said. "Good," Keller said. "Because something tells me you're gonna need him for what comes next." He left. Harper sat alone in the waiting room, fluorescent lights buzzing, clock on the wall ticking toward 8 p.m. Her phone buzzed. Text message, unknown number. She opened it. "Ms. Slate, this is Thurston Brennan. We should talk. Tonight, my office. I think we can resolve this unfortunate misunderstanding." T.B. Harper stared at the message, deleted it, turned off her phone, leaned back in the plastic chair, and waited. 6 hours. That's how long Harper sat in that waiting room. Plastic chair digging into her spine. Fluorescent lights humming their constant monotone song. Clock hands crawling from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. like they were moving through concrete. She didn't sleep. Couldn't sleep. Every time her eyes closed, she saw Vaughn's boot coming down. Saw Atlas hit the pavement. Heard that yelp that cut through her chest like shrapnel. At 1:47 a.m., the surgery door opened. "Doctor." Porter emerged, still in scrubs, hair matted with sweat, dark circles under her eyes that spoke of 6 hours fighting death at a cellular level. But she was smiling. Small smile. Tired smile. The smile of someone who just spent 6 hours fighting death and won. "He's stable," she said. Harper stood, legs stiff, back protesting. Every muscle in her body suddenly remembering it was human. Cracked ribs like I thought, 2 of them. Internal bleeding was minimal, repaired the damage. Sutured everything. He'll need rest. Pain medication. No strenuous activity for 6 weeks minimum. "Can I see him?" Harper asked. Dr. Porter nodded, led her through the door, down a hallway, fluorescent lights casting everything in that particular shade of medical white that made the world feel both sterile and fragile. The recovery room was small, 4 kennels, only one occupied. Atlas lay on his side, eyes closed, breathing steady. Bandages wrapped around his midsection like white armor. IV line running from his front leg to a bag hanging above him, clear liquid dripping rhythmic as a metronome. Harper knelt beside the kennel, put her hand against the wire mesh. "Hey boy," she whispered. Atlas's ear twitched, his eyes opened. Groggy, unfocused, pupils dilated from whatever drugs were keeping the pain at bay. Found Harper's face. Recognized. His tail shifted. Once, barely an inch of movement, but it moved. "He's on strong pain medication," Dr. Porter said. "He'll be out for another few hours. You should go home. Get some sleep. Come back in the morning." "I'll stay," Harper said. Dr. Porter didn't argue. She'd seen this before, the bond between handler and dog, the kind that didn't break just because the mission ended, the kind that meant you didn't leave, not when they were hurt, not when they needed you. She brought a folding chair, a blanket that smelled like industrial detergent, a bottle of water that was probably older than Atlas. "I'll be in my office if you need anything," she said. She left Harper alone with Atlas, with the steady beep of the heart monitor counting seconds like a prayer, with the rise and fall of his bandaged chest, with the knowledge that someone had heard him and walked away free. Harper pulled out her phone, turned it back on. The screen lit up like a firework. 7 missed calls, 3 from her sister Caroline, 4 from numbers she didn't recognize, 12 text messages, 17 notifications from news sites she'd never subscribed to. She opened Caroline's first. "Where are you?" Emma saw something online. "Are you okay?" "Harper, please. I'm worried. Call me." Harper switched to her browser, typed her own name into Google, watched the search engine think for half a second. Then the results loaded. Her stomach turned to ice. Navy veteran attacks philanthropist's son at community event. SEAL assaults, young man in unprovoked attack. Violent outburst raises questions about PTSD. Treatment for veterans. Riverton police investigate former soldiers' assault, article after article. All posted within the last 6 hours. All with the same narrative. Harper Slate, unstable veteran, PTSD sufferer, violent, dangerous, a threat to the community. She clicked on the first article. Riverton Daily Herald. Local news site with a comment section that was probably a war crime. There was video, security footage, angle from across the parking lot. Quality surprisingly good for public cameras. It showed Harper grabbing Vaughn, showed him falling, showed his face hitting pavement, showed blood spreading across his designer stubble like spilled wine. It didn't show the kick, didn't show Atlas being hurt, didn't show Vaughn's boot coming down twice with deliberate malice, just Harper's takedown. Edited perfectly to make her look like the aggressor. The comment section was exactly what she expected. These vets come home and think they can do whatever they want. Lock her up. PTSD is real. She needs help, not freedom to assault people. Why was she even at a family event with an attack dog dangerous? Brennan family has done so much for this community. Donated to schools' veterans' causes. Shame on her. My cousin served. He's not violent. This is just an excuse. Harper closed the browser. The words sat in her chest like stones. She opened her messages. The unknown numbers were all reporters. "Ms. Slate, this is Jennifer Chen from Channel 7 News. Would you be willing to give a statement about the incident at Riverton Community Field, Harper? Mike Rodriguez, Riverton Daily Herald. Looking to get your side of the story. Please call. Ms. Slate, we're doing a segment on veteran mental health services. Would love to interview you." They weren't looking for her side. They were looking for content, for controversy, for a 30-second soundbite they could twist into whatever narrative paid best. She deleted them all. Opened Caroline's thread. Typed, "I'm okay. Atlas is in surgery. We'll explain tomorrow." Sent. Put the phone face down on the floor beside the folding chair. Leaned back. Atlas's breathing filled the silence. Steady, mechanical. The sound of survival purchased with 6 hours of surgery and pain medication that would make a horse sleep. Harper closed her eyes, and for the first time in 6 hours, she let herself think about what came next. Thurston Brennan had money, had connections, had the entire town of Riverton in his pocket like loose change, and he'd just declared war. The question wasn't whether Harper could fight back. The question was whether she was willing to lose everything trying. She looked at Atlas, at the bandages rising and falling with each breath, the IV keeping him hydrated, the heart monitor beeping steady confirmation that he was still here, still fighting, still alive despite everything. Yeah, she was willing. The sun came up at 6:43 a.m. Harper knew because she watched it. Through the small window in the recovery room, orange light creeping across linoleum floors, shadows retreating like they had somewhere better to be. A new day starting whether anyone was ready or not. Dr. Porter appeared at 7:15, fresh scrubs, coffee in a travel mug that said, "World's okayest vet," looking more human than she had 6 hours ago. "He can go home this afternoon again," she said, "if he keeps food down, if his vitals stay stable, if he shows no signs of infection or complications." "And the bill?" Harper asked. Dr. Porter waved a hand like she was swatting a fly. "I told you, pay when you can. I can't ask you to, My husband," Dr. Porter interrupted, "came home from Iraq with TBI, traumatic brain injury, headaches that made him scream, memory loss so bad he forgot our daughter's name sometimes. Couldn't work, couldn't function. We had bills, medical debt that grew faster than weeds." She paused, took a sip of coffee. A doctor waived his fees, all of them. Just like that. Said Jeffrey had given enough. Didn't need to give his future too. Dr. Porter met Harper's eyes. "Jeffrey died 3 years later. Aneurysm. The headaches finally won. That doctor came to the funeral, stood in the back, left before I could thank him. I never even knew his name." Silence settled between them. The kind of silence that exists between people who've lost the same thing in different wars. "You pay when you can," Dr. Porter repeated, "or you don't. Either way, Atlas goes home healthy." She left before Harper could respond. Harper sat with Atlas until noon, watched him wake up slow, groggy, confused, whining softly until he recognized her scent, her voice, the hand stroking the soft spot behind his ears. She gave him water through the kennel bars. He lapped it weakly. Most of it ended up on the floor, making small puddles that reflected fluorescent lights. But he tried. That's what they taught you at the kennels. Always try, even when it hurts, even when you're scared, even when the world is spinning and nothing makes sense and your ribs feel like broken glass inside your chest. You try to know. Now. At 12:30, Harper helped Dr. Porter's assistant load Atlas into her truck. Old Ford F-150, rust spots blooming like iron flowers, cracked windshield with a spider web pattern in the lower right corner, 200,000 miles on the odometer. But it ran. They laid Atlas across the back seat, blankets underneath, pillows wedged around him to keep him stable. He looked small. That was the thing they never told you about war dogs. In the field, they looked invincible. 85 pounds of muscle and training and controlled violence wrapped in fur. But injured, medicated, wrapped in bandages, they looked like what they were. Dogs. Just dogs who'd given everything and gotten kicked for it. The drive home was silent. Atlas slept in the back seat, sedated, bandaged, breathing steady. Harper's hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. Mind racing. Thurston Brennan had declared war, and she was about to fight back. Her apartment was on the north side of Riverton, second floor, 1 bedroom, kitchen the size of a closet, bathroom with water pressure that barely qualified as mist. View of the parking lot where someone's car alarm went off every Thursday at 3 a.m. like clockwork. $850 a month. Cheapest place she could find that allowed dogs over 20 pounds. She carried Atlas up the stairs, all 85 pounds of him. Her back screamed, her arms shook. The surgical incision from her own rotator cuff repair, courtesy of a firefight in Helmand Province, threatened to tear open. She didn't care. Got him inside. Laid him on the dog bed in the corner, the one that still smelled like Corporal Garrett Rivera because Harper hadn't had the heart to wash it. Atlas's nose twitched, found the scent, relaxed. Memory was a strange thing. Harper sat on the floor beside him, ran her hand over his head, his ears, the soft spot behind his jaw that made his back leg kick when she scratched it just right. Her phone rang. "Caroline," Harper answered. "Jesus Christ, Harper," her sister said without preamble. "I've been calling for 12 hours. I know, I'm sorry. Emma saw a video. Some kid in her class showed her during lunch. Said you attacked someone. Said you went crazy. Is that true? Harper closed her eyes. No. Then what happened? A man kicked Atlas. Deliberately, I stopped him. That's all. Silence on the line. The kind of silence that meant Caroline was processing, thinking, connecting dots that Harper wished she wouldn't. Then the man you stopped is Vaughn Brennan. I know. His father is Thurston Brennan. I know. Harper. Caroline's voice dropped. Quieter, scared. The tone she'd used when their father died, and she'd had to tell Harper over the phone because Harper was deployed and couldn't come home. Thurston Brennan donated $100,000 to Emma's school last year. He's on the board. He's friends with the superintendent. He's corrupt, Harper finished. Powerful, Caroline corrected. And you just assaulted his son. I defended my dog. The news is saying you have PTSD, that you're unstable, that you pose a risk to public safety. Harper said nothing. What could she say? She did have PTSD, did wake up screaming 3 nights a week, did avoid crowds because too many people made her hands shake and her vision tunnel. None of that made the news wrong. It just made them assholes for using it. The school called me this morning, Caroline continued, said some parents are concerned about Emma's home environment, about her being around you. I'm her aunt, not her guardian. You're at our house 3 times a week. You pick her up from school. You help with homework. You're family Harper. You're important to her. And they're threatening that. They're suggesting I limit your contact with her for her safety. Harper's grip tightened on the phone hard enough to make the case creak. Caroline, I know it's bullshit, her sister said quickly. I know you'd never hurt Emma. I know you'd die before you let anything happen to her. But Harper, this is Riverton. The Brennans own this town. If Thurston wants you gone, he'll find a way. And I can't, her voice cracked. I can't lose you. Emma can't lose you, but I also can't fight the school board and keep my job and protect my daughter all at once. So what do you want me to do? Silence, long silence. Then quietly, maybe just lie low for a while. Let it blow over. Don't give them any more ammunition. Harper looked at Atlas, at the bandages, at the pain medication bottles lined up on her counter like soldiers, at the way his breathing hitched every few minutes, ribs protesting. No, she said. Harper. He kicked a war dog, Carolyn, a dog who saved 4 Navy personnel, who survived 43 combat missions, who's done more for this country than Vaughn Brennan ever will, and he kicked him like he was trash on the sidewalk. I know, but if I lie low, he wins. He gets away with it, and the next time someone crosses him, he does it again, and again, until everyone's too scared to stand up. You can't fight Thurston Brennan. Watch me. Harper hung up, turned off her phone, sat in silence with Atlas and the sound of her own heartbeat and the question that had been building since she watched Vaughn walk free. What now? The answer came at 4:30 p.m. A knock on her door, 3 sharp raps, confident, expected. Harper stood, moved to the window, peered through the blinds. Briggs Keller stood in the hallway, VFW cap pulled low, flannel jacket with patches from deployments that predated Harper by decades, hands in his pockets, the posture of a man who'd knocked on 1,000 doors and knew exactly what reception waited on the other side. Harper opened the door. How'd you know where I live? She asked. Veteran network, Keller said. Someone always knows someone, usually 3 people remove maximum. He gestured past her. Atlas make it, Harper nodded. Keller exhaled, long and slow. Relief written in every line of his weathered face. Good, that's good. Wasn't sure after I heard about the surgery. He pulled a folded newspaper from his jacket, handed it to Harper. Riverton Daily Herald, front page, above the fold. Brennan family seeks restraining order against veteran. Harper scanned the article. Her vision narrowed with each sentence. Vaughn Brennan, still recovering from injuries sustained in what his family describes as an unprovoked and violent attack, has filed for a restraining order against Harper Slate 42. The family's attorney cited concerns about Ms. Slate's documented mental health struggles and the presence of what they term an aggressive and improperly controlled animal. If granted, the order would prohibit Ms. Slate from approaching any member of the Brennan family or their business properties within 500 feet. They're coming for you, Keller said, and they're coming for Atlas. Let them try. I'm serious, Harper. They'll use every tool they have, legal, financial, social. They'll bury you in paperwork and court fees and character assassination until you can't afford to fight anymore. Why are you here? Harper asked. Keller met her eyes, old eyes, tired eyes. Eyes that had seen men die in rice paddies and come home to a country that spit on them. Because I've been where you are, and I lost. My sanctuary, my savings, my reputation. Everything I built after Vietnam, gone. He paused. But you're not me, you're SEAL. You've survived worse than Thurston Brennan and his lawyers and his bought politicians. And I think maybe you can do what I couldn't, which is expose him. Harper waited. I spent 2 years digging into Brennan's charity, Keller said. The Heartland Heroes Fund, $12 million raised over 4 years. Big PR campaign. Photos with veterans. Promises of housing complexes for homeless vets. 0 houses built. I saw, Harper said. Googled the addresses last night. Vacant lots, every single one. Keller nodded. But I couldn't prove it. Not legally. Not in a way that would hold up. Brennan's lawyers buried everything in shell companies and offshore accounts and legal language I couldn't parse. I'm just an old Marine with a high school diploma and rage issues. I didn't know how to fight that kind of enemy. He stepped closer. But you're not just a Marine. You're Joint Special Operations. You've been trained to find things people don't want found, to operate in hostile territory with incomplete intelligence, to complete impossible missions. You want me to investigate Thurston Brennan. I want you to finish what I started. Find the evidence, document the fraud, expose him for what he is. And then what? Take it to the cops, the DA who plays golf with him every Sunday, the judge who went to his daughter's wedding last summer. No, Keller said. You take it to the FBI. Harper raised an eyebrow. There's a detective, Keller continued. Wade Hackett, Riverton PD, 22 years on the force. Former Army CID Criminal Investigation Division. He's been trying to build a case against Brennan for 8 years. Can't get anywhere locally because everyone's either bought or scared. But he has contacts, federal contacts. Keller pulled out another card, handwritten name and number in blue ink that was starting to fade. Detective Wade Hackett, Riverton PD. Criminal Investigation. Cell 406-555-0147. Talk to him. Oh, I am, Keller said. Off the record. See if he can help. Harper took the card. Felt the weight of it, heavier than paper should be. Why would he help me? Because you're the first person in 8 years to publicly cross Brennan and not back down immediately. You're either crazy or brave. Hackett's betting on brave. Either way, you're useful. Keller turned to leave, paused at the door, hand on the frame. One more thing, he said without looking back. Watch your back. Brennan doesn't fight fair. If he can't beat you legally, he'll find another way. Men like him always do. Noted. Keller left. Harper stood in her doorway, looking at the card, at Detective Wade Hackett's name written in fading ink. Atlas whined softly from the living room. Harper closed the door, locked it. Deadbolt, chain, security bar wedged under the handle. The way they taught you in threat assessment courses. Secure your perimeter, eliminate vulnerabilities, prepare for engagement. She pulled out her laptop, sat at her kitchen table, started searching. Heartland Heroes Fund, Brennan Capital and Development, Thurston Brennan's financial disclosures from his Senate years, tax records, property records, business registrations, all of it public, all of it accessible if you knew where to look. And Harper knew where to look. Hours passed. The sun set outside her window. Harper's eyes burned from screen glare. Coffee went cold in her cup. Atlas slept on his bed medication, keeping the pain at manageable levels. But Harper kept digging. And slowly, piece by piece, connection by connection, a picture emerged. Heartland Heroes Fund, $12 million raised over 4 years. Public tax filings showed $600,000 in construction expenses. Project management fees, site preparation, materials acquisition, no completed projects, no houses, no facilities. Where did the other $11,400,000 go? Operating expenses, administrative salaries, consulting fees paid to companies with names like Patriot Development, LLC, and Freedom Construction Group. Harper cross-referenced the LLCs, registered in Delaware, Nevada, Cayman Islands, all owned by subsidiaries of Brennan Capital. The money went in a circle. Donors gave to the charity believing they were helping homeless veterans. The charity paid Brennan's construction companies for projects that never happened. The companies funneled money back to Brennan through executive compensation and shareholder dividends. 847 veterans had donated to Heartland Heroes Fund. Small donations mostly, $20, $50, $100 from someone's disability check, believing their money would build housing for brothers and sisters who'd served and come home to nothing. Instead, it bought Thurston Brennan a second home in Aspen, a boat, a private box at the stadium. Harper sat back, stared at the screen, at the spreadsheet she'd built over 6 hours, the connections she'd mapped, the evidence that was right there, public record, hiding in plain sight because no one bothered to look, or because everyone who looked got buried before they could do anything about it. Her phone buzzed. She turned it back on an hour ago. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. But something, instinct, curiosity, the voice in her head that sounded like her drill instructor, made her pick up. Harper Slate, male voice, older, gravelly, the kind of voice that came from too many cigarettes or too much yelling or both. "Who's this, Detective Wade Hackett? Briggs Keller said you might call. Guess I'm impatient." Harper glanced at the card sitting on her desk. "You investigating Thurston Brennan?" "Off the record, yes. I've been trying to for 8 years. Can't get anywhere. Local jurisdiction, local politics. Every path leads to a dead end or a closed door or a phone call from someone higher up telling me to drop it. What if I told you I found something?" Silence on the line, long enough that Harper checked to make sure the call hadn't dropped. "Then I'm listening." Harper told him about the vacant lots, about the shell companies registered in 3 different tax havens, about the $11,400,000 that disappeared into Brennan's pocket while veterans went homeless. Hackett was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, harder. "Can you prove it?" "I have public records, tax filings, business registrations, corporate structures. It's all documented." "Not enough. Brennan's lawyers will bury it in motions and technicalities. They'll call it clerical errors, accounting confusion, legitimate business expenses. You need something definitive." "Like what?" "Internal documents, emails showing intent, financial transfers that can't be explained away. Something that proves he knew exactly what he was doing and did it anyway." "How am I supposed to get that?" "I don't know, but if you can get me real evidence that shows deliberate fraud, I have contacts. FBI, White Collar Crimes Division out of Helena. They've been watching Brennan for 18 months. Your assault case gave them probable cause to start asking official questions. But they need evidence to get warrants. Real evidence. Not just public records that could mean anything." Harper's mind raced, spinning through options, possibilities, risks. "How much time do I have?" "Before what?" "Before Brennan buries me. Before the restraining order goes through and I can't get near him or his properties. Before I can't investigate anymore. 48 hours, maybe. Once the restraining order is official, you're done. Can't approach him, can't go near his offices, can't do anything but watch him win. 48 hours, 2 days to get evidence that could bring down a millionaire with an army of lawyers and politicians in his pocket. Impossible. Probably. But Harper had done impossible before. Helmand Province, 2014. Extraction mission gone sideways. 3 SEALs trapped behind enemy lines with a squad of Taliban fighters closing in. No air support, no backup. Command said it was a suicide mission. Harper and Atlas went in alone. Brought all 3 SEALs out alive. Impossible. Until it wasn't. "Yeah," Harper said. "I can do it." She hung up, stood, paced her tiny apartment. 48 hours. She grabbed her jacket, her keys, paused at the door, looked back at Atlas. He'd lifted his head, watching her with those dark, intelligent eyes that missed nothing. "I'll be back," she said. "I promise." She left. The drive downtown took 9 minutes. Harper parked 4 blocks from Brennan Capital headquarters. Different location than if she'd parked close. Different approach vector. Never used the same route twice. Basic tradecraft. She walked toward the building. Head down, phone out, looking like every other person in downtown Riverton on a Tuesday evening. Just another nobody. Invisible. Brennan Capital headquarters rose 8 stories, glass and steel. Chrome letters spelling out the company name across the front like a monument to ego. Harper walked past it. Once. Studying security cameras, guard stations, entry points. She wasn't going in. Not tonight. Tonight was reconnaissance. Learn the terrain, identify vulnerabilities, plan the infiltration. She circled the block, found the parking garage entrance on the west side, service doors on the north, ventilation system on the roof with access points that might not be properly secured. Made mental notes. Paths in, paths out. A black Lincoln Navigator pulled up to the front entrance. Thurston Brennan emerged. Even from half a block away, Harper recognized him. Silver hair perfectly styled, long coat that probably cost more than Harper's truck. That walk that said he owned everything he saw and most of what he didn't. He was on his phone, laughing about something. Completely unconcerned. Why would he be concerned? He'd fought this fight a dozen times before with people who had more resources than Harper. Always won, always would. Harper watched him enter the building, watched the doorman nod respectfully, watched the lights come on in the top floor corner office, his private office, the one mentioned in his ex-wife's divorce deposition, the one with the safe. Harper turned and walked back to her truck. The night air was cold. Autumn in Montana. The kind of cold that cut through jackets and settled in your bones and reminded you that winter was coming, whether you were ready or not. Harper didn't feel much. She felt something else. Purpose for the first time since Syria. Since Garrett died in her arms with Atlas whimpering beside them both. Since she came home to an empty apartment and a dog she didn't know how to save and a future that looked like nothing but darkness. She felt like maybe there was still a reason she'd made it out alive. Her phone buzzed. Text message. Unknown number. She opened it. A photo loaded. Her apartment building. Her truck in the parking lot. Her license plate clearly visible. No words. No threat. Just the photo. Message received. Brennan knew where she lived, knew what she drove, was watching. Harper deleted the message, started her truck, drove home through empty streets and past closed businesses and under streetlights that turned everything the color of old photographs, and started planning how to burn an empire to the ground in 48 hours. Atlas was awake when she got back. Not standing, not yet, but awake, eyes tracking her as she came through the door, ear flicking toward the sound of her keys hitting the counter. Harper knelt beside his bed, put her forehead against his. "We're in it now, boy," she whispered. Atlas exhaled, long and slow, his version of agreement. Harper pulled out her laptop, started researching. Brennan Capital floor plans. She found them in a public records request from 3 years ago when the building had undergone fire safety inspections, security systems. She found references in job postings for security guards, mentions of camera types, access control systems, employee schedules. She found them on social media. People complaining about working late, photos timestamped from inside the building, everything publicly available if you knew where to look. If you'd been trained to gather intelligence from open sources, if you'd done this 100 times in 100 different countries where the targets were enemy combatants instead of corrupt businessmen, 2 a.m. became 3 a.m. became 4 a.m. Atlas slept beside her. Harper built her plan. Entry point service door on north side. Locked but accessible with basic lock picks. Objective third floor northeast corner office. Thurston's private safe. Photograph contents. Extraction. Same route. Move fast, don't get caught, just like every mission. Except this time the enemy wore a suit instead of body armor, and the battlefield was an office building instead of a compound in Kandahar. But the principles were the same. Know your target, know your terrain, know your exit, and above all, complete the mission. At 4:37 a.m. her phone rang. Detective Hackett. Harper answered. "You still want to do this?" he asked. No preamble, no small talk, straight to the point. Harper appreciated that. "Yes. FBI needs evidence by tomorrow night, Thursday, 8 p.m. After that, their window closes. Brennan's lawyers will file motions that shut down the investigation before it really starts. I'll have it." "How?" "Better you don't know." Silence, then Harper. "If you get caught doing something illegal, I won't. If you do, I can't protect you. This is off the books, unsanctioned. The FBI doesn't know you're doing this. I don't officially know you're doing this. You'll be on your own. I've been on my own before." Harper hung up, looked at Atlas, at the mission plan on her laptop screen, at the clock showing less than 24 hours until everything either worked or fell apart, at the choice she'd already made. "Get some rest, boy," she said. "Tomorrow we finish this." Atlas's eyes closed. Harper's stayed open, watching the dawn creep across her apartment, watching the shadows retreat, knowing that by this time tomorrow, either Thurston Brennan would be in handcuffs, or she would be. Either way, the fight was coming, and Harper Slate had never learned how to back down. Not in BUD/S when instructors told her women couldn't make it. Not in Afghanistan when the mission went wrong and everyone said to abort. Not in Syria when Garrett was dying and Atlas was the only thing left that mattered. Not now. She closed her laptop, lay down on the couch. Atlas is breathing, the only sound in the darkness. And despite everything, despite the fear and the risk and the knowledge that she was about to commit crimes that could send her to prison, Harper slept for 3 hours. Dreamless, ready, 23 hours. That's all Harper had left. The sun rose at 6:41 a.m., orange light bleeding through her apartment windows like the world was on fire. Another day in Riverton pretending everything was normal. But nothing was normal. Harper stood at her kitchen counter. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. The way they taught you to drink it in BUD/S when comfort was a luxury you couldn't afford and weakness was something you left behind with your civilian life. Atlas lay on his bed, awake, watching her with those dark eyes that had seen things most dogs never would. IEDs buried in dirt roads, firefights that turned night into day, men bleeding out in sand that turned red under the Afghan sun. He knew. Somehow he always knew when the mission was starting. Harper's laptop sat open on the counter. Brennan Capital floor plans displayed. Security camera locations marked in red. Employee schedules cross-referenced with shift changes and lunch breaks and the rhythms of a normal workday. Third floor, northeast corner office. That's where Brennan kept his private files. The ones not stored on company servers. The ones his lawyers couldn't claim were accidentally deleted when subpoenas arrived. Harper had found the information buried in a sealed deposition from Brennan's divorce 5 years ago. His ex-wife's attorney had mentioned it in testimony. A safe, fireproof, combination lock, where Thurston kept documents he didn't want the IRS to see. The deposition was sealed, but nothing was truly sealed when you knew how to search federal court databases at 3 in the morning and had spent a decade learning how to find intelligence in places it wasn't supposed to be. Harper drained her coffee, checked her watch. 7:15 a.m. She had to wait, had to let the building fill with employees, had to let the rhythm of a normal workday establish itself before she could break it. Noon. That's when she'd go in. Lunch hour, maximum chaos, minimum attention. Half the building empty, the other half distracted. Perfect. She opened her closet, pulled out clothes she hadn't worn in 2 years. Business casual. Gray slacks that still fit but felt strange after months of jeans. White blouse. Navy blazer that hid the small tactical vest underneath thin Kevlar, the kind contractors wore bought secondhand from a surplus store. Hair down instead of pulled back. Makeup light professional, the kind that made you look competent and forgettable. She looked at herself in the bathroom mirror, barely recognized the woman staring back. This wasn't Harper Slate, Navy SEAL combat veteran woman who'd survived 43 missions in hell and come home broken. This was someone else. Someone soft, harmless, corporate. The kind of woman who worked in HR or accounting or maybe IT support and disappeared into the background of every meeting. The kind of woman security guards didn't look at twice. Perfect. Her phone buzzed. Text from Detective Hackett. FBI wants confirmation you can deliver. They're going out on a limb here, Harper typed back. I'll deliver. When tonight? 8 p.m. Where Riverton PD back entrance. Park on Miller Street. Come alone. Harper put the phone down. 8 p.m., 13 hours from now. 13 hours to break into one of the most secure buildings in Riverton, crack a safe that had defeated professional locksmiths, photograph evidence, and get out without being caught. She'd done harder. Probably. At 11:30, Harper's phone rang. Caroline. Harper almost didn't answer, but something guilt obligation, the knowledge that her sister was probably terrified, made her pick up. Hey, she said. Harper. Caroline's voice was tight, scared, the way it had sounded when their mother got sick, when their father died, when bad news came and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. Where are you, Foyer? Home. Why? Someone came to my house this morning. 2 men, expensive suits, said they were investigators working for the Brennan family legal team. Harper's grip tightened on the phone hard enough to make the case creak. What did they want? They asked about you, about your mental health, about episodes you've had, whether I thought you were dangerous, whether Emma was safe around you. Harper's jaw clenched. What did you tell them? I told them to get the hell off my property before I called the police. Caroline's voice cracked. But Harper, they had files, photos of you, of your apartment. They knew where you shop, what coffee place you go to. They knew Emma's school schedule, her teacher's name. They knew everything. They're trying to intimidate you. It's working. Caroline took a shaky breath. They said if I cooperated with their investigation, if I provided a statement about your mental state, they'd make sure Emma's scholarship to St. Catherine's stayed intact. If I didn't, she didn't finish. Didn't need to. The threat was clear enough. I'm sorry, Harper said. For what? For dragging you into this. You didn't drag me anywhere. You defended your dog. That's all you did. That's all any of this is. Silence stretched between them. The kind of silence filled with things neither of them knew how to say. Then Caroline quieter, can you win this? Harper looked at her laptop, at the mission plan displayed on the screen, at Atlas watching her from his bed with eyes that trusted her completely despite everything. I don't know, she said, but I'm going to try. Be careful. I will. Harper, Caroline paused. I love you. You know that, right? I know. Good, because if you get yourself killed doing something stupid, I'll never forgive you. Harper almost smiled. Noted. She hung up, stood in her kitchen, feeling the weight of what she was about to do. This wasn't Afghanistan, wasn't Syria, wasn't some compound full of enemy combatants where the rules of engagement were clear and the mission parameters were defined and everyone knew the risks going in. This was Riverton, Montana, American soil. And if she got caught, there'd be no extraction team, no medevac, no backup mission to pull her out, just her and whatever consequences came. She looked at Atlas. You stay here, boy, she said. I can't take you where I'm going. Atlas's ears flattened. He knew. Dogs always knew when you were leaving them behind, when the mission was too dangerous, when you might not come back. Harper knelt beside him, ran her hand over his head, his ears, that spot behind his jaw that made him lean into her touch. I'll be back, she whispered. I promise. She stood, grabbed her bag, checked the contents one final time. Lockpick set in a leather case. Small LED flashlight. Digital camera, old model, no wireless. No GPS, nothing that could be traced. USB drive. Everything she'd need. Nothing she couldn't explain if stopped. Just a woman with normal things. Forgettable. She checked her watch. 11:53 a.m. Time to move. The drive downtown took 9 minutes. Harper parked 4 blocks from Brennan Capital on a side street where meters were broken and no one checked. Different location than last night. Different approach vector. Never used the same route twice. Basic operational security. She walked toward the building, head down, phone out, scrolling through nothing. Looking like every other office worker heading back from an early lunch or a coffee run or whatever excuse people use to escape their cubicles. Just another face in the crowd, invisible. The lobby was marble and glass, expensive, polished. The kind of place designed to make visitors feel small and employees feel grateful they were allowed inside. Security desk on the right. 2 guards, one watching monitors showing camera feeds from every floor. One checking IDs of people who didn't have badges. Harper bypassed them, walked straight to the elevator bank like she belonged. Like she'd done this 1,000 times. Confidence was everything. Hesitation got you caught. She pressed the button for the 3rd floor. No one stopped her. No one asked questions. The elevator doors closed. Harper exhaled. First checkpoint cleared. The elevator climbed. Harper pulled a fake ID badge from her pocket. Generic company logo she'd designed last night. Photo that looked vaguely like her current appearance. Name that meant nothing, Sarah Mitchell, systems analyst. She'd made it at 3 a.m. using Photoshop and a laminator bought at Office Depot for $19. It wouldn't hold up to close scrutiny, but from a distance in a busy hallway to someone who saw 50 badges a day, it looked real enough. The elevator dinged. 3rd floor. Doors opened. Harper stepped out into a hallway that smelled like printer, toner, and ambition. Beige carpet, fluorescent lights, office doors on both sides with nameplates and frosted glass, the low murmur of phone calls and keyboard clicks and people pretending to be busy. She walked like she had somewhere to be. Not fast, not slow, just purposeful. Northeast corner office. 3rd door on the left past the break room. The plaque read T. Brennan. Private Harper glanced around. The hallway was empty. Lunch hour. Most employees were gone or gathered in the break room microwaving leftover pasta and complaining about deadlines. She tried the door handle. Locked. Of course it was locked. Harper pulled out her lockpick set, slid the tension wrench into the keyhole, applied gentle pressure, felt for the pins with the pick. 15 seconds. That's how long it had taken her instructors at Fort Bragg to teach her to pick a standard commercial lock. Harper had it open in 12. She slipped inside, closed the door behind her, locked it from the inside, turned. The office was exactly what she expected. Mahogany desk with nothing on it but a phone and a leather blotter. High-back chair that probably cost more than her monthly disability check. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Riverton, like a king surveying his kingdom. Framed photos on the walls. Thurston shaking hands with senators, governors, people who mattered. Plaques from charitable organizations thanking him for his generous donations. All of it a lie. All of it built on money stolen from veterans. And in the corner behind a painting of Theodore Roosevelt looking disappointed, in everyone a safe. Harper crossed the room, pulled the painting aside carefully. It was heavier than she expected. Ornate frame, real oil painting probably worth thousands. The safe was old. Mechanical combination lock, not digital, no electronic bypass. No emergency override, harder to crack, but not impossible. She pressed her ear against the cold metal, turned the dial slowly, listening for the click of tumblers falling into place. This part took time, patience, the kind of focus that shut out everything else. The sound of footsteps in the hallway outside, the tick of the clock on Brennan's desk counting down to discovery. The voice in her head saying this was insane, this was illegal, this was going to end with her in handcuffs and Atlas alone and everything she'd fought for destroyed. She ignored it all, just listened, felt the vibrations through metal, turned with surgical precision. Click. First number. She kept going, breathing shallow, heart rate controlled, the way they taught you in sniper training when your whole world narrowed to a target and a trigger and the space between heartbeats. 5 minutes passed, then 8. Click. Second number. Her hands were sweating inside the thin tactical gloves she wore. She wiped them on her slacks, kept turning, every sound amplified, every movement critical. Click. Third number. She pulled the handle. The safe opened. Inside folders, documents, USB drives, everything organized with the kind of precision that came from a man who knew exactly what he was hiding and wanted to find it quickly when needed. Harper pulled out her camera, started photographing. Financial records, wire transfers with account numbers and routing codes, emails between Thurston and Shell Company executives discussing project delays and fund reallocation in language that meant nothing legal and everything criminal. Invoices for construction projects that never happened. Receipts for personal expenses charged to Heartland Heroes Fund boat payments, country club dues, a vacation home in Aspen. $11,400,000. Every cent documented, every transaction photographed, every signature captured in high resolution. Harper worked fast, methodical but efficient, making sure every page was clear, every number visible, every piece of evidence admissible. She was halfway through the third folder when she heard it. Voices outside the office. Male. Angry, getting closer. Told security someone unauthorized went up to 3. Check Brennan's office first. Harper's heart slammed against her ribs. She shoved the folders back into the safe. Not perfectly, not the way they'd been, but close enough that maybe no one would notice immediately. Closed the safe, spun the dial, rehung the painting. The door handle rattled, someone trying to open it, finding it locked. She's in there. Get the key. Now. Harper looked around. No other exit, just the door and the windows. Third floor. 30-foot drop to concrete sidewalk below. She ran to the window, unlocked it, shoved it open. Cold air rushed in, carrying the smell of autumn and exhaust in the city below. There was a ledge, narrow, maybe 8 inches wide. Concrete lip that ran along the building's exterior for architectural reasons that didn't matter right now. Below that, a second-floor balcony, 15 feet down. Harper heard a key scrape in the lock behind her. She climbed onto the ledge, pressed her back against the building, feet on 8 inches of concrete. Nothing but air between her and the pavement 30 feet below. 3 stories, enough to kill, enough to shatter every bone. The office door burst open. 2 security guards rushed in, radios crackling, hands on belts near weapons they probably didn't know how to use. Harper moved, sideways along the ledge, slow, controlled. Every movement deliberate. Don't look down. Don't think about falling. Don't think about what happens if your foot slips. Just move. 1 foot, then the other. Slide. Step. Breathe. The guards were inside now, checking behind the desk, behind the door, in the small bathroom attached to the office. One of them moved to the window. Harper pressed herself flat against the wall, 6 inches from the window frame. 6 inches from discovery. Held her breath. The guard leaned out, looked left down the ledge, looked right. Harper was directly beside the window, in the blind spot where peripheral vision failed, where people didn't think to look because who would be crazy enough to climb out onto a third-floor ledge? The guard didn't see her, pulled back inside. She's not here. Check the bathroom again. Check everywhere. Footsteps moving away from the window. Harper kept moving, reached the corner of the building. The second-floor balcony was directly below. 15 feet. Harper lowered herself over the edge of the ledge, hung by her fingertips, concrete biting into her skin through the gloves, arms straining, rotator cuff from the old surgery screaming. She let go, fell, 15 feet in less than a second, hit the balcony hard, rolled with the impact the way they taught you in airborne training, came up on her feet, pain shot through her left ankle, twisted, maybe sprained, didn't matter. She climbed over the balcony railing, found a drain pipe, metal, sturdy enough, slid down to ground level, hit the alley behind the building, started walking. Fast, but not running. Running drew attention. Running said guilty. Walking said normal. She rounded the corner onto the main street, pulled off her jacket, stuffed it in her bag, let her hair down, pulled out sunglasses, changed her silhouette. Different person. Just another woman in downtown Riverton on a Wednesday afternoon. She made it 3 blocks before she let herself breathe. 5 blocks before she checked behind her. No one following, no sirens, no shouts. She'd made it out. Harper reached her truck, climbed inside, locked the doors, sat in silence. Heart pounding like it was trying to escape her chest. Hands shaking, ankle throbbing in rhythm with her pulse. Adrenaline slowly draining away, leaving nothing but exhaustion and the weight of what she'd just done. She pulled out her camera, reviewed the photos, 217 images, every document, every transaction, every piece of evidence the FBI would need to bury Thurston Brennan so deep he'd never see daylight again. She'd done it. Harper started the truck, drove home through streets that felt surreal. People shopping, walking dogs, living normal lives. None of them knowing that the woman in the rusty Ford had just committed multiple felonies to expose a corruption that had stolen from 847 veterans. Her ankle swelled inside her shoe. Every press of the gas pedal sent pain shooting up her leg. She didn't care. She'd gotten the evidence. Everything else was secondary. Harper pulled into her apartment parking lot, climbed the stairs. Every step agony. Unlocked her door. Atlas was standing, waiting. He limped forward on his still healing ribs, pressed his nose against her hand. Harper knelt, buried her face in his fur. "We did it, boy," she whispered. "We got him." Atlas's tail moved, slow, careful, but it moved. Harper pulled out her phone, checked the time. 3:47 p.m. 4 hours until the meeting with Detective Hackett. 4 hours until she handed over everything and let the federal government take it from there. 4 hours until she either became a witness against corruption or a criminal who'd gone too far. She uploaded the photos to her laptop, backed them up to 3 different USB drives, encrypted everything with military-grade software she'd learned to use during intelligence briefings in classified facilities. Then she sat on her couch, Atlas beside her, and let herself process what she'd done, what it meant, what came next. Breaking and entering, burglary, theft of private documents, crimes that could send her to prison for years. If Brennan's lawyers found out, if they could prove it, if the FBI didn't move fast enough to make the evidence matter more than how it was obtained. Harper walked to the bathroom, splashed cold water on her face, looked at herself in the mirror, saw a woman who'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross, who'd committed felonies for justice, who'd risked everything on the hope that the system would work this time. Her phone sat on the counter. She could still back out. Delete the photos, burn the USB drives, pretend it never happened. Walk away, let Brennan win. Let 847 veterans stay robbed. Let corruption win because fighting it was too dangerous. But then she thought of Garrett, dying in her arms in that Syrian desert with bullets still flying and Atlas whimpering and the medics saying there was nothing they could do, making her promise to keep Atlas safe, to keep fighting. And she thought of those veterans who'd given their disability checks to a charity they believed in, who'd trusted that someone would help them, who'd been betrayed by a man in an expensive suit who saw their sacrifice as an opportunity. Harper dried her face, walked back to the living room. Atlas was waiting, always waiting. She sat beside him on the couch, put her hand on his head. No going back now, boy, she said. Atlas leaned against her, solid, present, loyal, and they waited together. For the phone to ring, for justice to begin, for better or worse. The knock came at 7:33 p.m. Harper was already dressed. Jeans, dark jacket, baseball cap. The USB drives were in her pocket, backed up, encrypted, ready. She opened the door. Detective Wade Hackett stood in the hallway, 58 years old, gray hair cut military short, tired eyes that had seen too many fights end the wrong way. The look of a man who'd spent decades trying to do the right thing in a system designed to prevent it. You ready? He asked. Harper nodded. Bring the dog, Hackett said. Why? FBI wants to see him. Verify he's a legitimate service animal. Cover our bases in case Brennan's lawyers try to claim this whole thing is about a fake support dog and an unstable veteran with a grudge. Harper looked at Atlas. He was already standing, already waiting. She grabbed his lead. They walked to Hackett's car, unmarked sedan, police issue, the kind that said official business without advertising it. Atlas climbed into the back seat carefully, favoring his ribs, moving slower than he used to, but still moving, still ready. Harper sat in front. Hackett drove. They didn't speak. Just the sound of tires on asphalt and Atlas's breathing from the back seat and the weight of what was about to happen settling over all of them. Riverton PD was on the south side of town. Brick building that had been there since the 50s. American flag out front. Parking lot with more potholes than pavement. Hackett pulled around back, parked near a service entrance that was probably used for prisoner transfers and evidence deliveries and things the public wasn't supposed to see. Two men stood waiting, dark suits, FBI badges clipped to their belts, the kind of agents who didn't smile or small talk or pretend this was anything other than business. Harper Slate, the older one said, not a question, a confirmation. Yes. Special Agent Morrison, this is Special Agent Chen. We understand you have information regarding Thurston Brennan and the Heartland Heroes Fund. Harper pulled out the USB drives, handed them over. Morrison plugged one into a laptop balanced on the hood of an unmarked bureau car. Opened the files. Started scrolling. His expression didn't change. Federal agents were good at that, showing nothing. But Chen's expression did. His jaw tightened. Eyes narrowed. Jesus, he muttered under his breath. Morrison kept scrolling. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. The only sound was the click of the laptop trackpad and distant traffic in Atlas shifting in Hackett's car. Finally, Morrison looked up. This is enough, he said. We can get warrants. Move tonight. Tonight? Harper asked. If we wait until morning, Brennan's lawyers will know something's happening. They'll file injunctions, move assets, destroy evidence. We move now or we lose the window entirely. Morrison closed the laptop, looked at Harper with eyes that had probably seen 1,000 witnesses make 1,000 statements. You need to understand something, Ms. Slate. When this goes to trial, and it will go to trial, you'll be called to testify. Brennan's defense team will tear into you. They'll question how you obtained these documents. They'll bring up your PTSD diagnosis, your medical discharge, the assault incident, every mistake you've ever made. I know. They'll paint you as unstable, vindictive, a veteran with an axe to grind who broke the law to hurt a man who embarrassed her. I know. And if the judge rules the evidence inadmissible because of how it was obtained, Brennan walks, free, forever, untouchable. Harper met his eyes, didn't flinch. Then make sure that doesn't happen. Morrison studied her for a long moment, then nodded. We'll do our best. He gestured to Chen. Chen will take your formal statement, everything that happened, the assault, your investigation, how you obtained the evidence, all of it on record. Harper spent the next 2 hours in an interview room, fluorescent lights that made everything look slightly unreal, recording equipment with red lights that never blinked. Agent Chen asking questions in a voice that gave nothing away and typing her answers into a laptop. Atlas lay at her feet, calm, patient, the way he'd been trained, waiting for the mission to end. At 9:47 p.m. Chen finished. That's everything we need for now, he said. Harper stood. Every muscle in her body ached, exhaustion pulling at her like she was drowning. What happens now, she asked. We execute warrants, multiple teams. Brennan's house, his office, his offshore accounts. Everything simultaneous so he can't hide anything. And then we build the case. Federal prosecutors take over. You go home. Try to get some rest. Chen paused. And Miss Slate, thank you. What you did today, what you risked, it matters. Harper didn't respond, just nodded once and left. Hackett drove her back to her apartment. The streets were dark, empty. The kind of quiet that only happens in small towns after 10 p.m. when everyone with sense is already in bed. "You did good," Hackett said. Harper stared out the window. "I broke the law. You exposed corruption." "Not the same thing." Hackett pulled into her parking lot. "No," he agreed, "but sometimes it's close enough." Harper climbed out. Atlas followed, moving slower than usual, ribs protesting. They walked up the stairs together, into the apartment. Harper locked the door. Deadbolt, chain, security bar. Sat on the couch. Atlas beside her. Pulled out her phone. 11:03 p.m. She waited. For news. For confirmation. For something to tell her this hadn't all been for nothing. Midnight came. Then 1 a.m. At 1:37 her phone buzzed. Text from Hackett. "It's done. 6 warrants executed simultaneously. Brennan in custody. Vaughn too. FBI has everything. You should watch the news." Harper turned on her TV. Local news had interrupted regular programming. Breaking coverage with helicopters and reporters speaking in hushed, urgent tones. Former senator arrested in massive fraud case. FBI raids Brennan Capital. $18 million embezzled from veteran charity. Hundreds of veterans affected by Heartland Heroes. Fund scandal and helicopter footage showed FBI agents leading Thurston Brennan out of his mansion. Silk pajamas, handcuffs. That distinguished silver hair, disheveled for the first time probably in his entire life. He looked small. That was the thing they never told you about powerful men. Put them in handcuffs and they looked just like everyone else, just another criminal, just another person who'd stolen and lied and hurt people for money. Harper watched until the coverage looped. Then she turned off the TV, sat in darkness, Atlas's head resting on her lap. She ran her hand over his fur, over scars from shrapnel and battles and missions that should have killed him but didn't. "We did it, boy," she whispered. But it didn't feel like victory. Not yet. Victory would come later, at the trial, at the sentencing, when 847 veterans got their money back and knew that someone had fought for them. This was just the beginning. The days that followed blurred together into a surreal sequence of events that didn't feel quite real. News coverage on every channel. Harper's name mentioned repeatedly. Her photo, the one from her Navy personnel file, shown alongside Brennan's mugshot. Phone calls from reporters she didn't answer. Messages from veterans she'd never met saying thank you. A letter from the FBI asking her not to discuss the case publicly. Caroline called crying. "I saw the news," she said. "Oh my God, Harper, you actually did it. The FBI did it. I just gave them evidence. You took down Thurston Brennan. You exposed him. Do you understand what that means?" Harper looked at Atlas, at her empty apartment, at the stack of medical bills on her counter that hadn't gotten any smaller. "Not really," she said. "It means you won. It means he can't hurt anyone anymore." "We'll see." But Caroline was right. The school board issued a public apology for any implication that Ms. Slate posed a danger to students. The restraining order petition was quietly withdrawn. The edited video disappeared from most websites. And 8 weeks later, Harper sat in federal court, watching justice happen. The courtroom was packed. Gallery full of veterans. News cameras outside. The kind of trial that made headlines and changed laws and reminded people that sometimes the system actually worked. Thurston Brennan sat at the defense table. Orange jumpsuit, no expensive suit, no distinguished air, no power. Just another defendant waiting for judgment. The prosecution called witnesses. Veterans who'd donated to Heartland Heroes Fund believing they were helping brothers and sisters who'd served. Who'd given money they didn't have because helping each other was what you did. Forensic accountants who explained the shell companies and offshore accounts in the intricate web Brennan had built to hide $11,400,000. They called Harper. She walked to the stand, raised her right hand, swore to tell the truth. The prosecutor was gentle with her, asked about the assault, about Atlas, about what led her to investigate. Let her tell the story in her own words. Brennan's lawyer was not gentle. "Miss Slate, you have PTSD, correct?" "Yes." "You were medically discharged from the Navy due to psychological issues." "I was medically discharged due to hearing loss and PTSD from combat operations." "Yes." "You've been treated for paranoia, anxiety, violent outbursts." "I've been treated for PTSD symptoms that include hypervigilance and difficulty in crowds. I've never been treated for violent outbursts." "But you did violently assault my client's son, didn't you?" "I defended my service dog from being kicked." I used appropriate force to stop an assault on a federal asset. Isn't it true that you broke into my client's office, illegally entered private property, stole documents? I obtained evidence of crimes that your client committed, evidence that's been verified by the FBI and multiple forensic accountants. The lawyer's face reddened. Your Honor, I move to— Overruled, the judge said. The witness may answer. No further questions, the lawyer snapped. But it didn't matter. The evidence spoke for itself. Wire transfers documented to the penny. Emails with Brennan's signature discussing how to hide money. Invoices for projects that never existed. Receipts for personal expenses charged to charity funds. $11,400,000. All of it proven, and all of it undeniable. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Harper sat in the hallway outside the courtroom. Atlas at her feet, Briggs Keller beside her offering silent support. Caroline had come, brought Emma. They sat further down the hallway holding hands and whispering. When the bailiff called them back in, Harper's heart hammered. This was it, everything she'd risked, everything she'd fought for. Coming down to 12 strangers and their decision. The jury filed back in, didn't look at Brennan, that was the tell. Defense lawyers knew it. Prosecutors knew it. Anyone who'd sat through enough trials knew it. If the jury won't look at the defendant, he's done. The foreman stood. We find the defendant, Thurston Brennan, guilty on all counts. The courtroom erupted. Gasps. Whispers. One veteran in the back row started crying openly. Harper sat perfectly still, watching Brennan's face, watching the color drain. The realization hit. The empire crumble in real time. Guilty, wire fraud, mail fraud, embezzlement, money laundering, tax evasion, every count, all of them. The judge sentenced him 2 days later, 35 years federal prison. No possibility of parole. Vaughn got 12 years. Assault with intent, conspiracy to commit fraud, obstruction of justice. When they led Thurston away in handcuffs for the final time, he looked at Harper. One last time. His expression wasn't angry. It was confused, like he genuinely couldn't understand how this had happened. How one woman with an injured dog had destroyed everything he'd built. Harper held his gaze until he disappeared through the door. Then she stood, walked out of the courtroom on legs that barely worked, into the hallway where Caroline was waiting. Her sister pulled her into a hug. You did it, Caroline whispered. You actually did it. Harper didn't respond, just held her sister, felt Emma's small arms wrap around both of them. And for the first time since the verdict, she let herself feel it. Not triumph, not satisfaction, just relief. Deep, bone-tired relief. It was over. Justice had been served. 847 veterans would get their money back. Outside the courthouse, Montana's sun was shining. Harper walked down the steps, Atlas limping beside Bahar, moving slower than he used to, but still moving, still here, still her partner. News cameras tried to get her attention, reporters shouting questions. Harper ignored them all. Just walked to Keller's truck, climbed in, let him drive her home. What now? Keller asked. Harper looked out the window, at Riverton passing by, at the mountains in the distance, at the future that suddenly existed when yesterday there hadn't been one. I don't know, she said, but that was a lie. She knew exactly what came next. 1 year later, Harper stood on 40 acres of Montana grassland, rolling hills covered in wild grass that moved like water in the wind, pine trees, mountains in the distance, wearing the first snow of coming winter. The sign at the entrance read, Rivera Atlas Veterans K9 Sanctuary 23. Veterans lived here now, 19 retired military dogs, all of it funded by the $18 million in restitution that Brennan had been ordered to pay. The court had given the money to a nonprofit, a board of directors made up of veterans and K9 handlers and people who understood what it meant to serve and come home broken. They'd asked Harper to run it. She'd said yes. The buildings were simple but solid. Barrack-style housing for veterans who needed a place to heal. Common areas, therapy rooms, medical facilities staffed by volunteer doctors and nurses, kennels for dogs, and acres of open land where they could run and play and just be dogs for the first time since they'd been taught to be weapons. Purpose, that's what this place gave. Harper walked the property with Atlas beside her. Grayer now than a year ago, slower. Arthritis in his hind leg made him limp more than he used to, but he was here, still working in his own way, still helping. They reached the memorial garden. Small clearing, stone markers for every K9 who'd served and died. One marker stood apart from the others, Corporal Garrett Rivera, U.S. Navy SEAL, 2019 to 2024. His legacy lives on. Harper knelt, placed her hand on the cold stone. I kept my promise, she said quietly. Atlas is safe. The mission's complete. Atlas sat beside her, pressed his shoulder against her leg, the way he always did. Aunt Harper, Emma's voice called from across the field. Harper stood, turned, saw her niece running toward them, 11 years old now. Growing up too fast, but growing up good. Behind her, 3 other veterans working in the gardens, building new kennel runs, living instead of just surviving. This was what Garrett had wanted, what all of them had wanted, a place to heal, to serve, to matter. Harper looked at Atlas, at the sanctuary, at the mountains beyond, at the future she'd built from the ashes of the past. What do you think, boy? She asked. Atlas's tail moved, slow, deliberate, but it moved. That evening, Harper sat on the porch of the main house, sunset painting the sky in colors that didn't have names. 23 veterans gathered around picnic tables for dinner. Laughter, conversation, dogs running loose between tables begging for scraps. Normal, finally normal. Briggs Keller sat beside her. You built something good here, he said. We built it, Harper corrected. This isn't just me. Keller smiled. Fair enough. They sat in silence, watching the sun go down, watching the sanctuary settle into evening, watching peace happen. You know what I realized, Harper said after a while. What's that? I spent 2 years after Syria thinking God had abandoned me, that he'd let Garrett die and brought me home broken for no reason. She paused. I was wrong. He was just preparing me for this, to be the voice for people who couldn't speak up, to fight battles that needed fighting, to build something that mattered. Keller nodded. The righteous care for the needs of their animals, he said quietly. Proverbs 12:10, Harper finished. Garrett had that tattooed on his chest. I know. He showed me once, right over his heart. They sat until full darkness came and stars emerged, until the veterans went inside. Until it was just Harper and Keller and Atlas sleeping at their feet. What's next? Keller asked. Harper pulled out her phone, showed him an email. Subject Sanctuary Expansion Application. 53 veterans on waiting list. All need placement. Can we expand? Looks like we build more, Harper said. Keller grinned. Looks like. Harper stood. Atlas stirred but didn't rise. Too comfortable, too content. She looked at the sanctuary, at the lights in the windows, at the life she'd built from pain and loss and the refusal to give up. God doesn't call the equipped, she said quietly. He equips the called. Atlas's tail thumped once against the porch. Agreement. Always agreement. Harper went inside, into warmth, into light, into a future that finally made sense. The door closed behind her, and outside under Montana stars the sanctuary slept, protected by those who'd sworn to serve, built on the promise that no veteran would be forgotten, that no dog would be abandoned, that no sacrifice would be in vain. Harper Slate had made that promise, standing over Garrett Rivera's body in a Syrian desert, with Atlas whimpering beside her, with everything she'd believed in shattered. And now, 1 year and 847 restitution checks later, she'd kept it. The sanctuary would grow. More veterans would find home here. More dogs would find peace. And Harper would keep fighting, for as long as breath remained. For as long as Atlas walked beside her. For as long as there were battles worth fighting. Forever.